Hi guys. As you know, I just have a deep love in my heart for picture books that kind of subvert our expectations. And so, when talking about postmodern picture books, I wanted to share with you Chester, which really, like The Stinky Cheese Man and other oddly stupid tales, um, this book also makes fun of the way that we read books, of what books are and what we expect to see as far as how picture books would unfold. And so we've got Chester as a good example of this. This is by Melanie Watt. I love how Chester has taken the red marker and titled the book, crossed off the author's name and written his own name, and then shown where the award should be placed for this book. At the bottom here on the cover, you can see um, the little mouse. And so, of course, Melanie Watt has authored and illustrated this book. On the back, you can see he's taped a note to Chester's back that say mice rule. So, the mouse has the last laugh, as usual. Plain end papers here. And then we have a lovely picture of Melanie Watt here. Dear readers, I apologize for Chester's behavior in my mouse story. Sorry for the inconvenience. Sincerely, Melanie Watt. And then, of course, Chester has to get in his 2 cents here, holding the marker, blah, blah, blah. So as we know, just starting out, we know that this is actually supposed to be a book about the mouse. Okay? And Chester kind of just totally takes over this book. On the title page, we've got some fun stuff happening here. This is the dedication, and it says, "For Chester, because I couldn't have made this book without him. He's the smartest, most handsome cat in the world. I wish I could be like him someday." And so we see him walking off, and then Chester makes sure that you know that it is not written and illustrated by Melanie Watt. Okay, and now the story begins. Once upon a time, there was a mouse. He lived in a house in the country. And this is Chester's story, and he is rewriting the book. Then Mouse packed his bags and went on a trip very, very far away, and we never saw him again. Okay? And so here he's saying, "Hasta la vista, mousey." Okay, and then we get the mouse in his own little house with his relatives. So Chester moved in and made a few changes to his new place. Okay, so he draws a rainbow in the sky, says these are my curtains, labels this Chester's chair, draws a ball of yarn, crosses off the cheese that the mouse had set aside for himself and puts a fish there, and of course he redraws all of the pictures and makes them his relatives. But Mouse returned home. Oh yes, did I mention he brought back a really big souvenir with teeth? So this is Melanie Watt trying to check Chester. Chester, you've been bested, because Melanie Watt wrote a big, big bulldog into the story to scare you off, obviously. Back to the story. Once upon a time, there was a mouse. He lived in Chester. Move out of the way. Chester writes, he lived in the country with his big vegetarian dog who only ate carrots. Then Melanie begged Chester to write a better story, and it goes something like this. Once upon a time there was me. Chester stands for charming, handsome, envy of Mouse, smart, talented, envy of Melanie, really handsome. Chester lived in Chesterville, where mice weren't allowed. It was a beautiful day. And you can see Chester's illustrations here in red. And Melanie writes, until it started to rain. Right? And then she kind of melts away his world. You know, cats hate water. Melanie writes, now as I was saying, once upon a time there was a mouse. He lived in a house in the country. And then we get the same illustration that we opened up with. And then Chester writes at the bottom, and he lived happily ever after. Chester writes, the end, and tries to end the book halfway through the book. And the mouse says, I can't work like this. Chester, this is where I draw the line. Nope, I'm drawing the line. And he draws the line and writes, do not cross this line. Keep out Chester's side. Chester! That's enough. Hand over the marker this instant. Chester's busy. Hi, I'm Melanie Watt, and I am very angry. Hello, I am boring, and I am jealous of Chester. Chester, I'm warning you. Hand over the marker and apologize before I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. La, la, la. Oh, I missed the 21. 21. All right, Chester. You want your own story? You want to be the star of this book? Well, get ready. Here it is. Chester goes, finally! Once upon a time, there was a cat named Chester. He lived in a house in the country. Chester was a very handsome cat, especially when he wore pink. You wouldn't. Tutu. Now it's personal. And then this is how the book ends. And that is it. So, great example of a character taking over a book. Postmodern picture books do this quite typically. There are a few great examples of this, Chester being one of my favorites, but the Stinky Cheese Man as well, which I probably will do a video of that. I won't read the entire book because it's a compilation of several stories, but you'll get to see very similar ideas that we saw in this book and how it's replicated again and again and again, but with, each author and illustrator's own particular flavor. And that's what art is, right? And so you're going to see that in a later video. So I hope you enjoyed this one.